Yeah, Brooklyn was fascinated with the dinosaurs there. I was like so surprised they had that many of them. It was really cool. She's obsessed with dinosaurs right now.
So today we're talking about the problem with overpricing your home.
To like test the market.
Yeah, even just a little bit to test the market.
Yeah.
Some people think, let's just test it out, $10,000, $20,000 over what you said it should be, see what happens. You never know. We don't want to lose money. When really that money was never there to begin with. So you're not actually losing money, but I see it all the time, and I just see that what ends up happening is, I know I've said this before, probably on a ton of videos, but it ends up helping to sell other houses in the area. So they go to your house that's $20,000 overpriced, looks good, nice. They go to another one, $20,000 lower, that's either similar or nicer, and they're like, well, why would we buy that one when we can get this one for $20,000 less? So what ends up happening is you start to see a lot of the other listings in the area around you sell. Yours is still sitting there, and you do a price reduction, and people start saying, like, why was the price reduced? Because the general public doesn't really understand the seller's strategy, right? And then, so sometimes they think there's something wrong with the house when there's not. And if the market does drop from the time you've listed it to the time you do your price reduction, then in the end, you might end up actually taking less than what it initially would have sold for.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. Like, the way I say it to my clients is that, what I do is I show them like an example of overpricing, what it leads to. So there's like so many you can find just by going on the MLS. Whenever someone does a price reduction, it'd be because they weren't able to get an offer. And that means they weren't able to get enough showings to generate an offer by a certain period of time. So it was overpriced, obviously, because otherwise it would have sold. So if you want to like test the market, the way I see that is like sellers probably not that motivated. They don't really need to sell. They want to like just test the market. But what that really means is there will come a point in time in the future where they do need to sell. And if you ruin that period of time, I know it's kind of a strong word to say, but it's true. If you kind of ruin that opportunity, that window of time, which would be about 20 to 25, maybe 30 days, then it gets that what's wrong with the house stigma from buyers. Like, oh, it's been on for 60 days. What's wrong with the house, right? I call it the WWWTH syndrome. What's wrong with the house? And so... And so it's like, what's wrong with the house? It's been on for 2 months. And then you're like, oh, we actually need to like sell now because we're just like testing it before. Or let's take it off and put it back on.
Now we found a house.
Yeah, they might have bought a house. Now they really have to sell. Or the job transfers come, or the kids were going to school in September and it was like April when they were testing it. And now it's like July. So like, we really got to get things going here. Then that's when it matters. But you've ruined that window of time of it. Not having that stigma of what's wrong with the house like applied to it. Because when real estate agents value a house, we're valuing it at its maximum value. So what one person would pay the most money for. And like you said, if you overprice, it just makes other houses look good because buyers are out choosing those houses over yours. And so then yours sits on the market, you might get a showing or two. It's kind of like crickets, and then you never get an offer. So then you have, I always say, 3 options. You can take the house off the market and not sell. It's an option. You could take it off the market, renovate it, and get the price you want, like improve its value. A lot of people don't do that, but you could. Or lower the price. Right. Assuming everything else is set up properly, which is the agent's job, then it'd be lowering the price. And so then, you lower the price and then we're down to where we should be. And if the market's going down, which was in 2022, I had one house where this was happening. It's a long story, and then we're chasing the market down and they weren't really doing the reductions on time.
And eventually that can happen too, where you're chasing it down, literally.
Luckily right now it's not like that. It's pretty stable, but then you're like lowering it and then finally you're at its maximum value, but you have that stigma. So that actually devalues the home. So you can't get its maximum value. And that's what I mean by like you're ruining the opportunity for your house to get maximum value. But some people just don't really see all that, right? So they just think like more money, let's test it, you never know.
Yeah.
It's like, well, like, no, I do know, because that doesn't ever, no buyer will compare your house to the others in their price point and go to yours if it is overpriced.
Well, they have to see themselves on the other side if they were a buyer, and here's these other ones that are nicer, and then there's this one, And I don't think that they think about all of those factors. And I don't know if they know as well, but the realtors, all of us realtors, can see the history. Yeah. So if one of my clients wants to see a house, I can go in and see, oh, it was 100,000 higher. They dropped it 70,000. it's been on the market 45 days, and I would give all that information to my buyer. So when all of that information is given to the potential buyer, they then want to go in lower.
Yeah.
So further hurting the sale. And if you are buying a house and you have a house to sell and your house is overpriced or done numerous price reductions, when you bring an offer on another property, the listing agent of that property is trying to protect their seller, obviously, and they're going to want to know about your house. How long has it been on the market?
Yeah.
Why have you done so many price reductions? Why has it been on the market so long? What's the plan here? So it could actually impact you getting a property that you're interested in.
Like imagine like you're the listing agent, I'm the buyer's agent. And I'm like, hey, Jess, here's our offer. We have a SOBP, sale of buyer's property. Like, we got to sell my buyer's house by 3 weeks from now. Your first question is like, okay, what house? What's the price? How long has it been up? Is it even on the market yet? What about interest? How many showings we had, etc. You're going to ask me all that. If I'm like, oh, yeah, it's been on for like 3 months. They're like testing the market. And we've had like a couple showings recently, but no offers. And, we'll get it sold.
We'd just be like, maybe come back when your house is sold.
Yeah. So that's a really good point you bring that up, because I didn't even think of that, and it's so true. It'll really hurt your ability to get your offer accepted when you're buying, like on the buying side. So yeah.
Or even if the offer is accepted on the other side, the odds of another offer coming in and you not being able to firm up, if that happens.
Like if you're getting bumped.
Then you might.
Hopefully people know what we're talking. It's like where so the same situation, you accepted my offer and I bought the house and now I have to get mine sold. In that case, you're allowed to accept an offer from someone else. And if you do, it's number 2 spot. And then I get 48 hours notice to remove all my conditions or not. So I'm getting bumped.
We're probably confusing people now.
Yeah.
It's not good, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if you're not in a position where like you're getting a lot of interest, you're probably not, you're going to have to let the house go.
Right.
So it's really important to, not do all that. But the biggest thing too is just, it's pricing it right to start, because you don't want to get that stigma. What's wrong with it? Your house is a certain value, and the agent's job is to identify its maximum value, not to undervalue the home. It's maximum value. And so it's a fine line, because if you go too high, it causes it to sit on the market and all the bad stuff to happen. And like, if you did go buy another house, now you have to get your house sold and you're motivated and you're not testing the market anymore, you need to sell, and then all of a sudden it's been on forever and the buyer brings you an offer and they can see the history, it's 200 days on market, they're going to come in low. Right? Because you're motivated, and your job as the buyer's agent is to identify that, because that's in your client's best interest as the buyer's agent. So you're going to be like, oh, this situation, normally I'd advise you come here, but we could probably go lower because it was overpriced, and maybe it still is. So then they shouldn't even go near asking price anyway. So there's all these things that never lead to anything positive when you're overpricing. I don't know anything from overpricing your house that would be better for you. In fact, underpricing your house, obviously holding off on offers when the market makes sense to do that, you can win for sure when selling. But even slightly underpricing your house and not even holding off, which I wouldn't advise, but even if by doing that, I've seen a lot of those sellers get even more than maximum value, because it spurs a little bidding war in the first couple days.
Well, even if it's priced at market value, now I'm seeing either them sell quickly for a round or the full price.
Yeah.
Or even a couple of offers and getting a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I've had listings that sold for, say, $10,000 or $20,000 over asking right now that I genuinely don't feel would have got that much if we had have put it there.
Exactly. Yeah, because you kind of spur this little bit of interest in the beginning.
Right.
Like if I'm buying and you're another offer and there's another offer, I'm going to do more for my price than if there wasn't you guys.
Right.
Right? So it's always funny where it's the people that are so relaxed about the price on their home, typically, and they're like, let's just price it lower than you're suggesting, because I just don't want the headache. Like I don't want to even test maybe being too high, because our job is to push that limit, but not be too high. So they're like, let's go a little lower. I just want it to sell. I don't want the headache. Those are the people where I'm like, if anyone's going to win, it's like them, because then all of a sudden, not only get their house sold quick, not too quick, but quick, they get a little bidding war and they actually go above asking and everything's fine. And they're like, sweet, that's great.
Yeah.
It's the people that are like, I need like 900 and it's max worth 860. And then they put it on and then it sits there. And
well, not to mention, you have to keep your house show ready and all the showings and dealing with all of that too, and just not really being able to move forward because your house is just sitting on the market.
Yeah,
And
your real estate agent calling you every single day, bugging you. It's like,
well, and there's a lot of buyers who are educated, and then, you know, I've seen houses that were so overpriced that, you know, when I would go to price the neighbor's house, I'd be like, by the way, like, we know the one over there, and they would laugh. They'd be like, we know we're not getting that much. We don't even understand why that one's priced at that. I'm like, okay, good. Glad we're on the same page, because that one's like 500,000 overpriced. They're like, oh, we know. The whole neighborhood has been watching that one for years or whatever, right? And you don't want to be that house.
Yeah.
It becomes almost like a running joke of the neighborhood is what some of those ones have.
Yeah, I remember this one
I'm
house in the
sitting at people's
southeast end that was like,
Yeah,
I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was a bungalow over $1 million. I'm like, this is wild. But yeah, like if you really care a lot about getting the most for your house, which I understand, and it's our job to help you with getting maximum value, then the last thing you want to do is overprice,
Right.
which kind of is counterintuitive because you're like, well, how do I get more money? Ask for more money.
Right.
Doesn't lead to the right outcomes. You need your agent to be really dialed in on the value, price it right. In my opinion, that's 1% above max market value. So like if I did value like 660, 670, it'd be 665 times 1.01. It's like 679. We would go there. 675, I wouldn't go higher than that because then it leads to overpricing. So your agent got to really be good at what they do to help you with the value, and then trust that, or have multiple agents like, you know, give you opinions of value.
But even then, it can be difficult because
it'll vary. Yeah, you got to trust someone.
You got to trust that someone's not telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's another good point. Some agents will take overpriced listings, right? Where it's like, well, if I have a sign up, maybe I'll get a couple calls and I can get a buyer. So that's something too to watch for, which sucks for the public because they probably don't really get that can happen. So I think that's why the agent's job is to
under delivering.
Overpromise, yeah, exactly. Like we're overpromising and it's not going to get the right results. And that sucks when you have to have that call once every 2-3 weeks. It's like, hey, why isn't it selling? Well, it's the price. But I mean, like you told me it was this much, and that's just not, it's misleading, right?
That's not how I want to run my business. And I know you don't run your businesses like that either.
No.
Of course, we lose business to that or have, but
I think if you explain the value really well, like if I show you, like you're a homeowner, and I'm like, here's the value of your house, but it's not just like, that house sold for this one sold for that, so yours should be somewhere here. No, it's like, here's the most similar house to yours. Here's all the ones, and then here's the differences.
Tough too, because everybody thinks their house is superior, right, to the comparables. So there's that too, and there's emotion tied into it as well. So just, you know, listening to an educated professional realtor who is experienced in selling real estate is your best bet, because they know we do this every day, tons and tons of times. Of course, there are the one-off ones that go for more than we thought they would, which is great for everybody.
But I would argue in that case, it was just, we were just wrong about the value then, right? Like, if it doesn't just matter.
That's not a common occurrence though, you know?
That's why it's so important for the agent to get the value right and be thorough on it, because that's the starting point to talk about price and make sure you're getting the maximum value. Because when it's maximum, if you're off by 5 or 10 grand, that could mean a price reduction in 2 weeks, or it's selling in the first couple of weeks.
You know, as much as we provide the information, as much as someone thinks their house is worth something, what it really comes down to in the end is what someone's willing to pay for it.
Yep. Yeah, which is, exactly. And they're out shopping, they're comparing the homes, so you got to be like where it should be for price. Not too low, but not too high, like right at maximum value. So, cool. Let's go price some homes.
Let's do it.
Together?
No.